So that musical episode of Star Trek is next week, unfortunately. I was looking forward to a little sing-along, but alas, here we are with episode 8 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and here I am with my review for you, so let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to my review for episode 8 of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Under the Cloak of War. Now, as I said, that musical episode of Star Trek, I will be here next week, very early, with my review for it. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, come and join the channel for my weekly Star Trek reviews when it's on. But let's get back to this one, Under the Cloak of War. So, we had a light episode last week. It looks like we've got a light episode next week. But in between, given here, is a dark episode. M'Benga-centric, shall we say. So, in this episode, we find that the Enterprise is in the Prospero system, which is now falls under Starfleet jurisdiction after the Starfleet, or the Earth and Klingon War. An ambassador, a Klingon ambassador, is brought on board the Enterprise, Ambassador Ra, otherwise known as the Butcher of Jugal. Now, Jugal was a moon upon which there was a lot of fighting with the Klingons during the Klingon War. And this is a moon upon which M'Benga was based, and Nurse Chapel. And this is where they first encountered one another and met one another. So this episode deals with a lot of flashback stuff to the fighting upon that moon and the stuff that occurred. We find that Dr. M'Benga, he's having a lot of issues with the fact that this ambassador has come onto the starship. Not only him, but also Nurse Chapel as well, and Lieutenant Ortegas, who voices her displeasure to the Federation having this ambassador on board. He's there for to bring about peace. He wants to bring about peace. He wants to be a saint, essentially. And as the story continues, you know, the distrust between M'Benga and this fella grows. We learn more about the flashbacks, more about the Butcher of Jugal, and it turns out that not everything is as it seems. You know, without going into spoilers, I don't really want to go into too much spoiler territory, but things are twisted on its head, and if you've seen the episode, you know exactly what I mean. A very, very strong episode. You know, Dr. M'Benga, he's a fantastic character. He really is. And he's kind of been hard done by in the realm of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Obviously, in that first season, he had the story revolving around his daughter. A story that was jettisoned by the creators of this show very quickly and somewhat prematurely, in my opinion. I believe that they felt that that backstory wasn't exactly working, so they wanted to get it out of the way, get rid of it, and give the Doctor something else to flesh him out. And this is what we've fallen upon here, and it's a far darker storytelling, and it works for it. You know, this gives the character of M'Benga so many layers. He's like an onion. He's, you know, a very multi-layered character, questionable in his actions as well, and what he does and what he's done, and certainly what he does at the end of this episode, and the untruths that he tells to Captain Christopher Pike and all this sort of stuff. It was a fantastic episode. Unfortunately, we won't see the character of Ambassador Ra again, but even him as a character, he was a very strong, enjoyable character to watch. Not so Klingon-y as what we know Klingons to be in his performance. Very much about wanting to bring about peace and this sort of a thing. But, you know, was there a truth in what he was saying or not? There probably was, or there was, and you know, things played out the way they did. A lot of characters like Nurse Chapel, she got a fantastic load of stuff to do here. And again, it's great to fill out her backstory along with Mbenga's on this Battle of Jugao and exactly what happened there. The lives they saw saved, the lives they saw lost, the impact that it has had on them emotionally in a sort of kind of PTSD kind of a way. Very, very strong storytelling. For me, this is probably one of my favourite episodes of Star Trek Strange New Worlds to date. I thought it was fantastic. Very, very mature in what it's doing and the story that it is conveying. You know, we're given some fantastic special effects and some fantastic stuff between Mbenga and Ambassador Ra, in which they have to, you know, there's a scene where they go for, you know, they're in the dojo together and they're fighting Full Impact and Mokbara, and this is where, you know, a lot of character stuff is built, and it looks like potentially they could come together. They could come together and start working together, but things kind of go awry. It's, yeah, I enjoyed this episode immensely. I suppose it's nice to have you know, you had a lighter episode last week. Inevitably, next week's is going to be pretty light. And then you've got the darkness sandwiched in between those. And so it proves that this show here, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, can do both very good. And, you know, I've got no issue with them ejecting that character arc for Mbenga with his daughter, like I said, which I did take issue with when I reviewed it last season. But if that's being replaced with this kind of a story arc because it teases more to come, then I'm all good for that. So tell me your thoughts on this episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Did it work for you? Didn't it work for you? Let's talk Star Trek. And remember, hit that subscribe button, because next week around this same time I will be back with my review for the musical episode. And yes, I'm open to that. I'm not going to dismiss it, because there's some other shows that have had some fantastic musical episodes, and it's something that Star Trek has never done. So bring it on.